How are y'all doing again? I'm Chico West.
And I'm Shannon West.
And we're here again with Filter Optional. Today I am wearing my no filter shirt because I am the no filter.
Okay, and I am not because it's like 22 degrees outside, but whatever.
But you're the filter in my life.
Yes, I am.
You know, so we're really excited about today's episode. If you hear some giggles in the background, we're excited about two of our friends coming to us today. Let me give them a chance to introduce themselves. You know.
Hello, you guys. My name is Lisa Cronky, and I'm a recovered alcoholic.
I'm Mary Schubert. I'm a recovered alcoholic as well.
And y'all are not just that, you're more than that. Lisa, you're a mother of how many?
4 boys.
Oh,
yes.
So you are a boy mom.
I'm a boy mom.
Yes.
Boy dog, boys, my
Everywhere.
whole life.
Same,
oh, yeah.
same.
You know,
Yep, Shane and I are alike.
Yes, y'all are alike.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how about you, Mary?
I have a dog.
A very, very cute
She's precious
dog.
and perfect in every way.
Yes.
Yeah, but I like that, Mary, you're the youngest of 4 girls.
I am the youngest of 4 girls.
So you come to us from a different perspective. I'm feeling a little outnumbered today.
Yes, welcome to the outnumbered club. Yes, I'm always outnumbered.
Yes, I mean,
In our house,
so for everybody, I'm a little scared what's going to happen today. You know, with 3 women coming and, you know, just giving the female perspective. So I need to be on my best behavior today.
Well, and as we know, Chico runs a treatment center for men, and there's a reason that he does not run a treatment center for women. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's completely
No,
true.
I told you long ago.
It is.
You don't do what it's
It is.
true.
It's
ladies,
true. I can
right?
confirm.
Yes, but I'm really good individually meeting with women.
I can also confirm that. You're
Okay,
good
yes.
meeting individually with women.
That is
Yes,
true.
and
But Lisa and Mary are good at working with women.
they are really
addiction.
good.
So
and
they
so
will-
a little bit about how I know Lisa and Mary is, man, they are my go-to women. If I'm meeting with a woman or that, the deal is, I go to Lisa for the older women.
Thanks, Chico.
And
But that's true.
It is true. And then
I'm all about it.
And I go to Mary for the younger women that need someone that is getting in recovery or even thinking about recovery.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, y'all are my go-tos that if a woman comes into my private practice, I call y'all. And y'all have always been there. And I really, right now, I'm going to give a big shout out to tell them thank you for being there and
Of
taking my
course.
phone calls.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Always.
Yes. Because
Yes.
a lot of times the referrals are coming through me because I am a woman, and a lot of times I have friends and people that call me, and Chico's always like, "Oh, I gotta call Mary or I gotta call Lisa."
Yes, and the deal is, I love the fact that you women are in recovery, and it's recovery from addiction. But sometimes we even, call y'all to help women out that are struggling with codependency, because y'all have the same mindset as us in
Yes.
working the steps.
Yep.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, and helping the families.
I was just going to say the families are really the ones who usually reach out first, because the people who are in recovery or who need recovery are the last to know. So the families are the ones who usually are suffering the pain before the actual alcoholic or drug addict is.
Yes. And so what are the kind of things that I know that men and women are different when you're looking for, signs that somebody might need some help. And so.
Well, women usually do Botox and fillers and stuff like that.
Oh, my
You're really going to bring that up right now?
Unreal.
I mean, unreal.
Can we wait like 5 minutes
I
into
know.
the broadcast
I know.
and start talking about what your perception of women are?
Exactly. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shame involved with women in recovery. And there's a degree of shame, especially women who are mothers. And that's really what I love to talk to the women who are trying to get sober, who are moms, because there is such a huge degree of, I'm a terrible mother, I'm a terrible person, I can't beat this on my own, and I can't even stop drinking for my children. And that right there is a degree of shame that it's really unless you're sitting in front of someone who's on the other side, who's been there and who's been through it, it's really difficult to understand.
Right.
And it's
right.
not just shame, it's loneliness.
It's loneliness.
You feel
Yes.
so much loneliness. You know,
Absolutely.
and y'all correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not a woman, I'm a man. But I see a lot of my experience with women is with that shame, they tend to hide out.
Absolutely.
You know, men, you know, they're, you know, when they're in their disease, usually a lot of times they're just, you know, being a tornado, tearing
go
crap
out.
out.
They don't hide
Bravado.
out.
I mean,
Yes.
it gives liquid
Yeah.
courage, and you go out and you're like, I am more of a man. Or,
Right.
And women, I'm less of a woman. And you absolutely, that's why the closet drinking is kind of a thing, but it is a thing. And
Right.
there's nothing more black or more lonely than being by yourself with your children outside, and you literally cannot get out of the closet. You want to be by yourself. You want to be alone. It's really black.
So it's easier for a wife or a woman or a mom to see this in a man because they're out and they're making mistakes and they're getting DWIs and they're, you know, they're doing all that stuff. But it's probably harder for a husband or a father or, you know, a mom to see it in a daughter or a wife because they're not,
Out there.
It's so in them.
Yep.
They're lonely.
Oh yeah, big time lonely.
Well, I was stay-at-home mom I worked in an advertising agency in Dallas for a number of years. And then after child number 2, I stayed at home. So it was so much easier for me to drink during the day with Dave gone to work, and then he would get home. And then I can't get fired from my job. My job was being a mom. I was
Right.
a terrible mother when I was in my addiction, but I'm not going to get fired from it. So it's so much easier
just
for
have to
women
try
to
to
go
manage.
along. Exactly. And Dave didn't have a choice. Was he going to hire a babysitter to come and stay with me all day long while he was at work? So
Right.
it's a really unique set of circumstances for women, especially moms, who are in addiction.
What would you encourage women to do if they are in that lonely place and obviously it's to reach out to someone, but you know, having been there, like who do you reach out to? Because you don't want to reach out to friends because that's exposing a secret that you have. And we all know that secrets need to be exposed, but
wait a second. Pause there for a second.
Okay.
We don't want to reach
let's
out.
let the professional jump in
We
here.
don't want to reach out to friends. Yes, but we don't want to reach out to friends. I think because you know, a woman's struggle, and I could be wrong, but a woman's struggle, there's a lot of talking behind each other's backs. You know, and so there's that fear, you know, for women that, oh, if I reach out to a friend, they might share it with someone else. And so there, you know, that tendency of gossip. You know, we've seen it, you know, when women go and pick up their kids in elementary school in the carpool line. Oh, did you see so-and-so? They smelled like they had alcohol on their breath when they were picking up their kids. So I think sometimes women don't reach out, you know, when they're in their disease, because of, you know, y'all struggle really talking behind each other's backs.
I wouldn't say that so much as I would say
I agree.
it's about the shame.
Yeah.
I think maybe if
It's about telling that first person.
it is, and it's a lot more serious than by the time it was obvious that I was in my addiction, I didn't care if people were talking about my back because they were.
Yeah.
And I think but I would like to think that they were trying to help me instead of talking down to me or being demeaning, or I really think that they were trying to help me. They just didn't know what to do.
They didn't have the tools either.
They really didn't. And my friends like to drink. So it was like this horrible thing of me going to happy hours or me going to a party or me going to play dates, and they were having wine, but they didn't want to have wine while I was there, but they didn't want, you know, it's a bigger issue than just the gossip thing. It's about
Absolutely.
our culture and whether we're going to talk about it out loud or not. And that's why I love the name of this show, because it's really about talking about it. Like if my friends would have said in our circle with our kids there, said, Lisa, we think that you have a problem and we need to talk about it. No one did that. They were too afraid to talk about it. The stigma of alcoholism is pervasive. People just don't know that you should just talk about it.
Right.
And that's the best way to help someone.
Well, and because they didn't want to hurt you.
Yes.
You know, women
Yes.
are nurturers by nature, and they don't want to, no one probably wanted to hurt you.
Yes.
By saying
Absolutely.
that and then having you go, what? And men are just more confrontational, I think. by
Sometimes, I mean, I think there's a lot of men that aren't confrontational. You know, men have that same fear. They dance around it.
Yeah.
They'll make jokes about it. They'll be passive aggressive.
Yes.
And so this passive aggressiveness comes out with men, you know, and so I appreciate what y'all are saying is because I get that picture, Lisa. All of a sudden you're going, hey, my friends were afraid. You know, that's why we talk about a lot here, the last 2 episodes, you know, when we were talking about codependency is that the codependency goes hand in hand with alcoholism.
Yeah.
Yes.
And, you know,
It
I
does.
love what what Alcoholics Anonymous talks about. We're driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion. So that fear is so pervasive.
It
But
is.
even if you take away, you know, addiction, our culture, we're just driven by fear.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to hear a little bit from Mary, if you'll share as far as, because since we have a 19-year-old that's in college and the whole college culture and the young 20s, you know, single dating culture, it revolves around drinking in a lot of ways. But so how would, you know, friends recognize a problem in their friends? Like, it would probably be easy to recognize it in Lisa because, you know, she was either isolating and she was a mom and there was, you know, some sign, probably a little easier to maybe see that she was acting differently.
Yeah.
But how do you tell a 22-year-old, how do you tell that they're acting differently? Because that's what they do.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, you know, it's especially important to look out for, you know, in AA, we talk about the kind of first half of the disease, the physical allergy, just the absolute inability to control the amount that you drink. That was the biggest thing for me when I was drinking was, hey, I really can't control how much alcohol I drink.
Right.
And yes, people are getting drunk. Yes, every now and then they, you know, vomit at a party or pass out or what,
Right.
every time for me.
Okay.
It was, I mean, and it was then not only, you know, at the appropriate quote unquote times to drink. I don't know that there's an appropriate time for a 16-year-old to drink, but,
Oh, wow, right,
you know, it was way past those points. It was,
Right.
you know, drinking in the morning, drinking, you know, in between classes in high school, you know.
Yeah, and did people know that? Did people know that? Did you have any friends that kind of knew you were doing that? Because
I was real good at kind of Chico. I was real good at kind of finding other people that were interested in doing the same things.
Sure, yeah.
And so, you know, I found a lot of those people, and so I would kind of jump from friend group to friend group,
Yeah.
and there were a couple of really close friends that yeah, they had an idea of what
But it
was going
wasn't like
on.
you were hiding it like Lisa, you know, like a
Yeah, I was
mom
hiding
might.
it mainly from the authorities.
And your parents.
That's what I mean.
And your
my
parents.
parents and
Yeah,
my
yeah, yeah,
you know,
yeah,
my
yeah.
family.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
it was
And I think there was some differences. I mean, you mind if I
No, go
dig
for
in?
it, please.
You know, I mean, I knew Mary when she was drinking. You know, and the deal is, when we would talk, when we would sit down and talk, you didn't want to talk. You put on this big front that, hey, you know, okay, I have to come see you, but screw you. Is that fair to say?
I think I said that.
Yes.
Yeah, to you.
Yes.
Especially him. He's
Oh,
like
my
this
gosh.
old, creepy, short guy.
Right?
Like, really? Like, what?
And
What's
so
going on?
annoying.
Yeah, so annoying and in your face and talking to
Yeah.
your parents. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the thing is that I appreciate is we continue to meet. We continue to push through that. You know, and you found that there was that safe place, but that was your
Yes.
protection mechanism.
Because he's
Yeah.
like a virus. He's hard
Yeah.
to shed. You
He's
know?
really
Yeah.
hard
Once
to
he's
pick.
on-
It's been 10 years and I can't shake it.
I
still.
know. I know.
But the thing is, we kept pushing through that, and your deal is you were putting up this front, but you were hurting on the inside. Is that?
Oh, and I think the hardest part for me was always that I didn't want anything to be wrong with me.
Yes.
As a
That's a great
teenager
point.
and as a young adult, I just didn't want to be different. Like,
Yes.
I know that's cliche to say, but I did not want to be the one that goes to rehab. I did not want to be the
Yes.
one that needed help. And going and, you know, sitting with Chico, I felt like as long as I don't expose and be vulnerable with this person, it means that I don't need help.
Right.
You know, my thing always when I would meet with, you know, Chico is the last of many therapists I met with. But, you know, I just always used to say, I have friends. I don't need this.
Right.
You know, is this like idea, like I'm not different So stop trying to make me different.
Right, right.
I'm the
I don't want to
same.
stick out.
I don't want to stick out.
yeah.
Well, and I think that's real similar to you, Lisa.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't want to be different. You didn't want to be the mom that was the alcoholic, you
No.
know, and you didn't want to be the teenager that was the alcoholic that needed to go to rehab. You know, that's like addiction 101. We are afraid.
Well, and it's like codependency 101 because we did our second episode on what is normal. Everybody can go back and listen to it if they'd like to.
Yes, little
but-
plug there.
Yeah, a little plug. But what is normal, because I wasn't an addict, but I was a flaming codependent, and I wanted to be normal. Like, I didn't want people to think that I was weird or abnormal or needed rehab, you
Yeah.
know, or anything like that. But until I could get help for myself,
Yeah.
until I could admit it and start to work on myself,
It's the toughest thing.
it's the toughest thing. But that's when the shame and everything starts to kind of melt away. And
Absolutely.
so I just,
But exactly, and I was going to jump on that is, you know, our definition of normal is just what the majority does. You know, I
Around
like
you, around
yes,
you.
that I like that definition. Lisa, you said, you know, all your girlfriends drink. You know, a lot of
Yeah.
our friends drink. I don't drink. I'm an alcoholic. You know, a lot in high school, kids drink. They smoke pot. They do that. But then there's some. You know, we're not advocating that, and we want to, you know, encourage parents to
Yeah.
confront that behavior. But that is normal. That does not mean healthy.
Well, that's the thing too, is that, you know, even in the last, you know, since I got sober, it's the stigma's, you know, lessening, but it's still such a big deal. I
I
mean,
was just going to say.
I remember my parents caught a lot of flack for sending me to treatment. And it was a lot of encouragement by, you know,
did they catch
Chico.
flack because it was kind of like, you need to take care of this in your own house?
It
That
was
kind
more
of-
so,
or-
hey, this is a phase.
Okay, yeah.
It was, hey, this is
trying to
normal.
clarify
Kids
if
drink too
people-
much in high school. They, you know, they go get. It's not
Yes.
normal to end up in the hospital on a Sunday morning.
No, right.
That's not
It's
normal.
not
Because
normal.
of church, too. You were going to church, and
Yeah,
you were.
I went to church and I had a few
Yeah.
drinks. Yeah.
Yes.
It's normal, right?
All
But-
right.
but also-
Totally.
But also here, okay, I'm gonna go no filter route right here. It's like it's normal. Sometimes culturally, you grew up in where?
Highland Park.
Yes, and in that culture, a lot of kids drink, and so your parents were feeling this pressure of, okay, hey, kids will be kids. They're gonna grow up. Yes, hold her accountable, but there was that fear, that stigma. Your parents, it took them a while before they said, okay, enough's enough. We got to do something.
Yeah.
You know.
I think there's a lot of perfectionism in that environment. I wouldn't say it's just Highland Park.
No.
I think that
I
there's
agree.
a lot of communities where it's about the children and perfectionism, and what parents think it's a reflection of them. Any kind of failure of their children, they
Absolutely.
take that on. And that's the codependency thing, where they cannot distinguish between the parent and the child. And I think so. There's a lot of that in Highland Park. There's a lot of that in everywhere. It's pervasive.
Everywhere. I agree.
So I don't know if it's just for one, because I mean, I'm from Garland, and I still felt that need to be perfect when I was in high school, and I would cover up things, and it's a personality thing too.
right. Oh, for sure.
The other thing too I wanted to talk about, go back to what Mary was talking about, the stigma. I was embarrassed to even think about being an alcoholic because I thought alcoholics were a certain kind of person.
Sure.
I thought alcoholism was a certain kind of woman. It was
Right.
weak-willed and had was loose, or was living under a bridge, or didn't have a moral compass.
Right.
And so I think education about what alcoholism is and what alcoholism is not
Yeah.
is really, really important.
Completely.
And I think that access to that through our churches, through any number of channels, is something that we really all need to work towards.
Yes, and it's like we all agree to working with working with the families. You have to educate the families.
Yes.
So that they can
Most
figure it
important
out.
thing.
Because I think you're exactly right. It is in every neighborhood and whatever. And I know, Chico, you may have brought that up too, because I do think there is some more access when you use to alcohol.
Oh, financial
Absolutely.
access.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's what I'm
Absolutely.
talking about. I'm not every little culture, society has their issues. But you know, in the more affluent neighborhoods, kids have access to cash. Kids have access to big liquor cabinets that are just stocked.
And parents are traveling.
Yes.
Right.
And so there.
But if people can be educated to like come together and maybe lock up the liquor cabinets or whatever. I know that doesn't prevent alcoholism because you know, you can start
But the
drinking.
younger you start, the
Yes.
greater propensity for it is.
That's
You know,
true.
just in the developing brain.
Right.
You know, my concern now is, you know, just the, you know, we're not going to go on this topic, but marijuana. Marijuana is so pervasive all over, and it is just going to be a huge epidemic.
Well, because there needs to be a lot of education around that too. You know, I mean,
I agree.
Yes.
you know, it just a lot of it is education and where these kids are getting it, and
But
you know?
but the deal is, just like you know, y'all struggled with shame and loneliness. Parents struggle with that shame and loneliness. If your kid is struggling with addiction, it's like, you know, people naturally, that codependency in their friends is, oh, it's all right. Mary's going to be all right. You know, y'all don't need to really hold her accountable. How come you sent her to treatment for that long? I mean, there was all that shame.
Well,
Well,
that's
they're
what,
thinking. Well, I'm sorry. They're thinking about themselves when they're saying that.
Oh,
they're thinking about their
completely.
own children and going, "Well, maybe if she's doing it, maybe I should do it." And they don't want to do it. I mean, they don't
Right.
want to look at the problem like that. So that's part of the reason they're telling Mary's parents that is not because of Mary; it's because of their own situation.
right.
Well, and then that goes along. That goes if you tell. That goes when you were, you know, a younger mother with young kids, and you're going to those play dates, and you know they're not drinking. If they say something, then they might have to look at themselves.
Exactly.
Even though,
Same thing.
even
Yeah.
though they're not alcoholic, it's just like, oh crap.
Different
You know,
details. Same.
you know,
thing.
Lisa's like me. You know, she's cute, she's fun, blah blah blah.
Oh,
you know.
I thought he was saying Lisa's like me, like Chico, like
No.
cute.
I'm
me
talking
Chico.
as-
Wow,
yeah.
Chico's real
Me
proud of
Chico,
himself.
cute.
Yeah,
No.
me Chico.
I was no. I'm talking
Comma.
about
but he
Comma.
does think he's cute. Just
He
to
didn't
clarify, that's for
put
sure
the comma
true.
in there.
Lisa with her friends. Her
with her
friends.
friends.
She's
Her
just
friends
like
are
them,
making those statements. You know, just like your parents were making those statements. Their friends are going, "Uh-oh, you know, oh my son, my daughter hangs out with Mary. What's happening?"
Well, I think
Yeah.
one of the most powerful things that my mom discovered when I did overdose was, you know, I think one of my sisters, again, three older sisters, so they were very involved too.
Yes.
And I'm so thankful for that. But they, you know, figured out how to get into my cell phone, and I don't know if this was per your advice or what.
It was.
I mean, you're going to take credit for it either
Of
way.
course.
I know, right.
So we'll allow it.
You're so
Right.
smart.
We'll allow it.
We'll allow it, yeah.
So smart. Go ahead.
But they, you know, they look through my text messages, and I think, you know, my mom has shared with me before, just in reflection, that one of the most difficult pieces of kind of uncovering what was really going on with me was learning that you know, you always think, oh, my kid is falling under the influence of some bad kid.
Oh, right.
You know, that some other parent's child is, you know, manipulating my kid into doing stuff. And what she realized was I was the one manipulating other people.
That's what I whispered in here as you were talking. You were the bad kid.
I know.
I was, you know, I was the kid that, man, again, like I didn't want to be alone. So yeah, I'm looking for other people to get high with. I'm looking
Sure.
for other people to drink with.
Sure.
And
Of course.
I think one of the most powerful things, and this is, you know, just a side note, kind of circling back to what you were saying about, you know, college and all that stuff is, it's funny, we joke at the office sometimes about sororities, because I never did go to a university, and it's very, you know, that's a very big deal with where I'm from, is what university are you going to? And what sorority are you pledging?
Absolutely.
So we always, you know, I remember, you know, my mom also in reflection kind of telling me, hey, there was a day that I realized you're not going to college.
Okay, yeah.
If you don't get some help, you're gonna die before you make it to college. Like, that's not your story. And for her to accept that and be okay with that and embrace that literally saved my life.
Yeah, see, that pulled her out of denial.
Absolutely. And the most powerful thing that my family, because it's not just my mom, it's my dad. I mean, my dad talks to everybody who will listen
Yeah.
about my recovery.
Yeah.
You know, but it's my sisters too, and just them saying, hey, we're not going to be quiet about this.
Yeah.
Like, we're not going to be shy about the fact, hey, my sister's an alcoholic. She's been in recovery for a while. Here's her number. You know,
Yeah.
giving
But
it
that's
to
the
other
thing that
people.
I love about your family, and Dave, and other
boys,
things,
the
Shannon,
boys.
Absolutely.
my boys, the
Mm-hmm.
other things like that, is that, hey, it's their story to tell too.
Absolutely.
That's, I think there's that misconception, even, even in our circles of Alcoholics Anonymous, no, you were causing destruction in your home family, and they have the right to share that.
Absolutely.
And so my family has that right. I don't want to be there. I'm not going to break someone else's anonymity unless they give me permission. But, if you're a family member, it's your story to tell too.
Yeah.
And it's your purpose in life as well.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
God didn't just give us the purpose
Yeah.
in our lives. There's a purpose for the family member too. And that's why it's a family disease, but it's a family solution.
Oh,
And
big time.
it's amazing how my kids have gone, you know what? Your alcoholism is then turned into one of our purposes in our life. We can help our friends. I mean, so because they live out loud as well. But also too, it's a lot easier when you've had success. I mean,
Absolutely.
we've
Yeah.
had successful spiritual recoveries. We've had successful spiritual awakenings. We've had successful in sobriety and abstinence. But it's really difficult for me to go to another family member, well, talk to Dave because I've been successful at it. And there's others who are not.
Right.
It's difficult to stay sober. We're so surprised when someone relapses. We should be more surprised when someone stays sober for a length of time because it's difficult, especially for women. You
Right.
start isolating again, and the kids become more important than your recovery and all the other things that you thought, you got your stuff together. Now you can
Yes.
focus and be the mom that you weren't for a decade.
Right.
And then you drink again. And it's hard to talk to those family members.
Yeah, it's hard, but that's culturally. I think culturally, it's no one wants to talk about their failures, but we need to embrace our failures.
We absolutely do.
It is by God's grace that I've been sober as long as I have. It is. I don't want to take that lightly at all. And so the same thing. It's like we don't. Also, what we don't celebrate, we don't celebrate people that are not getting back into the disease of codependency. We do not, we don't give people chips for, hey, I haven't been codependent and rescuing someone. We get chips for our recovery.
Yeah.
Right. I want
Yeah.
my chips.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
gonna get you some chips.
Thank
But the
Yeah.
tips is
Yeah.
for the newcomer too. It's not really for us.
I agree
Yeah.
with that, but
Right.
but the deal is we don't celebrate that either.
Yeah, we
There
don't.
is success, but we don't also go, man, I am broken and in need of God. That's what I love about Alcoholics Anonymous. It is just about a relationship with God and getting out of
Absolutely.
self.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what we can tell women, that it's not about a personality. It's not about something that you've done wrong. It's not. It's really what's lacking is not your willpower or behavior. It's what's lacking is your relationship with your higher power.
Absolutely.
And it's when you say it like that, that sounds easier to obtain than sobriety.
right.
And it's so much. It's so much more of a joy to talk about.
Well, I just feel like only God can take away that shame.
Yes.
Only God can do that,
Yep.
or your higher power, or, but for me, it's, only Jesus can do that. It can take that shame away. And then I can talk about, like, I've had people call me about this two codependency episodes that we did and say, wow, you were so vulnerable and you were so, like, and I could relate and everything. I didn't feel vulnerable at all because God has taken that shame away. I'm like, that's just me. Like, I'm going to rescue
Exactly.
you. I'm going to,
Yes.
I am codependent and I feel zero shame when I
Yes.
say that. But I know that people that haven't crossed over to that other side still feel shame when they say I'm a codependent or I'm an alcoholic. Or,
But that's where it takes work, and I
Yes,
I
that's-
agree with you. I mean, we got to work.
yeah.
It's a program of action. No matter what we do, we can stay stuck in our stuff. But if we don't do the work, here's the deal: is when you first get sober, alcohol's all over our society, and when you're older and you're getting sober, it's like your friends. It's like, man, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna be a loser and stuff like that. No, I like what the Big Book says. After you're on step 12, to shield the sick man from temptation is doomed to failure.
Yes.
We have tried those methods, and the result is a bigger explosion than ever.
Yes.
So don't avoid places where there is drinking. That includes
Mm-hmm.
bars, nightclubs, nightclubs, receptions,
Yep.
and plain old ordinary whoopee parties.
Are you just
Yes.
quoting?
Whoopee!
Are you just
Yes.
quoting from
He
the
is.
book?
He is quoting.
Yeah.
But he's
But
making
he
it
always
sound
does
like
it.
it's original, which
I
is
know.
truly, I mean,
Which
you're
is-
talented.
Well, thank you, but the deal is, the
She
deal
was
is
being
I love-
facetious.
I know she was.
Okay.
But the deal is, I am quoting. It's page 101, and the deal is, what I like is that's not
Rain
until step 12. You know, so you do need to be away when you're first getting sober.
Yes.
You need to build community. I think what sets people apart, you know, and this is the deal with people with long-term sobriety. You know, and sometimes even people with long-term sobriety relapse. You know, that is part of it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, but there's some key things. You know, they took direction usually at their treatment center of their Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, their sponsors and stuff like that. They have a relationship with God. You know, they followed those recommendations, and they have community. Now, the people that, you know, those are some of the key factors
Yes.
with that happening. And you know, a lot of times people don't have community, and that's what happens.
I agree. I think the number one thing for me, and I would push this up to the list of maybe number 2 after relationship with God, is helping other people.
Oh, for sure.
One-on-one. And I
Yes.
think that is the key. That's why I'm not ashamed of being an alcoholic. There was this Academy Award, the Academy Awards anyway. This guy got up and got this, talked about the speech, and he talked about in front of billions of people about that he had an eating disorder, and he was feeling vulnerable, and he talked about it, but he said, I felt compelled to talk about it. And I remember one of my boys said, wow, that's really, I can't believe he got up there and did that.
Right.
And for me, I thought, you know what? He didn't feel that it was weird to talk about it.
Exactly.
Because it was a part of who he is.
Right.
I believe that that's a part of who I am because I see the results in other people. I see God in other women. When they start to recover in 2 weeks, they're completely different women.
Yes.
No human being can do that.
And
It-
you've
you
been the
see
conduit.
it.
You've
You
been
see
God's
it.
tool to help.
I feel compelled to talk about it.
Yeah.
Bear witness to the fact that the transition is physical. It is the weirdest, most beautiful thing to be a part of.
I agree.
Why wouldn't you talk about it?
Yeah, and I agree with you 100% because I got a little confused when I was talking about 3 and 4. It is about service work. You know, we have to be of service, and then community. You know, and those 4 things kind of go together.
Absolutely.
You know, I like this verse in Romans, you know, where it says, "Do not be conformed to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is. His good,
Absolutely.
pleasing, and perfect will." Yes, and if I can really do those things, you know, you know, I love that Scripture says that, but it's our society. We get conformed to the patterns of this world.
Yes.
You know, so the deal is, I like to be abnormal. I don't want to be normal.
Oh, really?
This is
Yes.
just brand new information.
Yeah. Stop the presses.
You know, so that, you know, those things happen, you know, and there is a difference in recovery with men and women.
Absolutely.
You know, and women need other women in their life to, you know, to encourage them, to spur them on.
Yeah.
And men need the same thing. You know,
Right.
and the difference is, you know, lots of times, it's a struggle with men. Men struggle with getting vulnerable with each other. But
Ego.
Yes.
and their
They
ego
totally
gets,
in the fifth
Ego.
step is a huge deal.
yes. And
Yes.
so what happens to them early in
Yes.
recovery, they can go play games, they can play basketball,
Yep.
they can hang out, but to really, you know, push and get vulnerable.
It's
and,
intimate.
Yes.
It's intimate.
Into me you see.
Yeah.
Intimacy. You know, and so they struggle with that. Women, I mean, and I could be wrong, but women struggle with not focusing on boys.
I would say the opposite, bud.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why does he do that?
Men have
does he
such
act
a
like?
harder time
Well,
not focusing on women.
Let's stay in your lane. Let's stay in your
Yes.
lane.
Why would he
Let's
act like
stay in
we're
your
so
lane, bro.
distracted by dudes?
Yeah.
Or gossip about each other. I mean,
I know,
I think
right.
that this
Thank
is
you.
about building each other up and not tearing each other down.
Thank you.
I think that's a perception.
Yes.
I think that you wish we were so into boys, but I don't think it's as much. I think boys are more into girls than girls are into boys. At that
Yeah.
moment. I think the trifecta with the boys, the car, the job, the woman, you know.
I
that
think
whole thing.
for a woman, they should be encouraged to find a safe person to talk to, because I do think.
We're like,
Yeah, I know. I mean,
I'm
he
all right
needs
with that.
He needs it.
I do
He's-
need it.
He doesn't get it.
You know, but but here's the deal: is I didn't finish my train of thought when you were at when you were at working in that women's sober living home. A lot of times those girls would be focused on the
Yes.
boys. They didn't know how to have fun without focusing on the boys. The boys could get distracted and play video games or basketball or stuff like that. That's what I'm talking about. Young people in recovery.
that has
that's
has nothing to do with recovery. That is like
that's 24-year-old.
That is,
Yes, that's
not
what I
a
was talking about.
44-year-old.
Yeah, I'm
That's
not.
male.
I was wrong, and so I was really focused just
Thank you
on.
for saying
I was
that.
looking at Mary and
That's
focused
male.
when we
That's
were
male
when we were
female
doing
101.
Chico said he was
Yes.
wrong. This is
I
like
will
a
say it's
huge
more.
I know,
vlog.
right?
This is a big one.
It's more so about, and again, like, yeah, it manifests itself in the form of, hey, I'd love to get some validation and some attention from a dude. But,
Sure.
and especially in early recovery for women, absolutely. But it's more, hey, is there somebody that can make me feel worthy? That's all it is. Like, I want to feel worthy. Like, I just want to feel worthy.
But that's a human condition.
That is
Absolutely.
human. It's not alcoholism
males
or
males the same way as
Yeah.
I think there's two core things, and there's two core things that kind of that feeling of inadequacy and the feeling of abandonment, and that's what drives just the human condition.
Well, and we don't have time to talk about this today, but I've been thinking a lot about the, like the Gillette commercial that's out, and
Yes.
the boys will be boys and all that kind of stuff. Well, I've always said, years ago, I told people it shouldn't be boys will be boys. It should be boys are boys, and it should be girls are girls, and not that girls are weaker, weaker or
Put in a
less
box.
than or put in a box. It should be boys are boys. Therefore, they need to be trained. They need to be told how a woman feels because they don't know. Like Chico just, acknowledged,
Yeah, I acknowledge that, and that's
no,
and
it's-
I have no problem with
boys
that.
are boys, and so they are going to, I don't know, model. We don't have time to.
But
talk about this
here's
really,
the
but-
deal. What I do want to say is I want to say thank you to both of y'all for showing up today.
Yeah.
Thank you for what y'all do with Maggie's house. Thank you for what you do with just helping other women and families really understand the disease of alcoholism and codependency. It was awesome to have y'all today.
And we always encourage people, if they do need a safe person to talk to, I get, Facebook messages and voicemails and everything all the time. And we would love for people to reach out to us as a safe person to lead you to Lisa and Mary, who are two other safe people.
And they are rock stars. And
They're safe people.
I learned a lot today. Thank you, ladies.
Yes,
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank
Thanks.
you, Shannon. Thank you, Chico.
absolutely.
Bye-bye.